Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Daniel Hodgson. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, flowers of the forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Joseph Douglas France. Joseph France was born in the Sydney suburb of Leichhardt in March 1892. Known as Joe, he was one of 9 children born to Edward and Marion France. Joe received his education in nearby Lilyfield at Orange Grove Public School. He later began volunteering for the Sydney City Mission, where he was known as a tireless worker. At the outbreak of the First World War in 1914, he was working as an iron moulder. Joe France enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 24th of January 1916, joining his younger brother Sydney, who had enlisted a few weeks earlier. The brothers were assigned to reinforcements of the 17th Battalion and undertook a short period of training before embarking for active service in April, sailing on board the troop ship Ceramic. After several weeks at sea, the France brothers arrived in Egypt and joined other new recruits. Joe remained in Alexandria for a few weeks before he set sail for England, separated from Sid, who had been hospitalised in Cairo. Joe France arrived in England in early June and commenced a longer period of training before joining his unit in the front lines in September of 1916. Having missed the fighting around Pozieres and Mouquet Farm, France spent the weeks which followed undertaking training and trench maintenance as the bitterly cold winter began to set in. Like many who suffered from the difficult conditions of the trenches, Private France developed a severe case of trench foot. He was evacuated to England for treatment in a larger hospital away from the front lines. It took him several months to recover from his illness, and he did not return to his unit until August 1917. His return came in the aftermath of the Germans' strategic withdrawal to the Hindenburg Line, which had begun at the start of the year. Since then, the 17th Battalion had suffered through multiple clashes with the enemy, particularly at Lagnicourt in April and Bullecourt in May. Following major losses sustained during the enemy's withdrawal, the focus of Allied operations on the Western Front turned to the Ypres salient in Belgium. Now reunited, the France brothers were quickly drawn into the fighting when the Allies attacked enemy positions at Menin Road. Following a major artillery barrage, the 1st and 2nd Australian Divisions advanced towards enemy lines in the early hours of the morning on the 20th of September 1917. They came under heavy enemy fire as German troops attempted to resist their advance. Allied units were at a significant disadvantage, having to cover more than 1,500 metres to get to their objective while coming under fire from enemy pillboxes and occasionally being accidentally hit by their own guns. As the men advanced, Sid, who had been assigned a runner, was hit by shrapnel which killed him almost instantly. Later that day, Joe was hit and killed by enemy machine gun fire while taking cover in a shell hole. The brothers were among more than 5,000 casualties sustained by Australian units alone during the attack at Menin Road. Private Joseph France was buried nearby at Polcapel British Cemetery. His remains lie there today, beneath the inscription, "He did his duty." Joseph France was 25 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Joseph Douglas France, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.